Okay, let's get the worst offender out of the way, shall we? 2016's Gods of Egypt is quite possibly one of the greatest failures of a film at nearly every possible level of conception. It's not that it's bad, it's that nearly every creative choice made was the wrong decision, resulting in a ridiculously overpriced bit of shiny with a plot that makes Moulin Rouge look like the Marianas Trench of romantic epics. Directed by Alex Proyas, Gods of Egypt stars Kingslayer Nicolas Coster-Waldau and shouty Scottish Spartan man Gerard Butler as the Kemetite deities Horus and Set in their never-ending war for the soul of the two kingdoms. This film is hard to describe. It is bad, no arguments there. It is really quite bad, but it's bad in some very special ways. From a technical aspect, it's alright. It's a matinee adventure with flying shouty men doing battle with laser staffs and armored Stargate suits. Saturated in decent VFX that doesn't try too hard or seem realistic because it's openly displaying a world of ridiculous over-the-top magic. It most reminds me of Tarsem Singh's 2011 film Immortals, a much more serious but equally stylized take on Greek myth starring Henry Cavill. It's not as lazy as 2011's other Hellenic offering, Clash of the Titans, and feels probably intentionally like a comic book adaptation along the lines of the first Thor film, and later Black Panther and Aquaman. Had they swapped out the setting for fictional mythology, or Greco-Assyrian like Immortals and Thor, it would be a forgettable popcorn flick. A Scorpion King, making back just enough bank to fund a series of increasingly cheaper sequels with increasingly less recognizable actors. At least everyone here is trying. Nicolas is trying. Butler is trying. In that he's, just being Leonidas, but he's at full Leonidas. And the two mortal love interests, the male of which was clearly written to be an Orlando Bloom type, are both trying, and are not nearly as annoying as they should be. The Reichsmarschall is trying, the royal family are trying, and even Geoffrey Rush is enjoying having a soundstage to himself and having to interact with only the primary cast for brief moments, before spending the rest of the film on his back sleeping. And Chadwick Boseman is conducting a masterclass in scenery consumption as the god of catty smartasses. While it will never happen because this film failed and he's got Disney money now, I would have gladly watched a spin-off of the quippy, bitchy adventures of Toth. A great deal of effort went into making this film, from the design to the performances, a top-to-bottom production with a vision. Unfortunately, it was a myopic vision, as it took this ancient North African civilization and stuffed it full of white people. While the Egyptian kingdom had its fair share of paler rulers in its later years under the Macedonian Ptolemies, the Egypt portrayed in this film is clearly meant to be a mythologically tinged adaptation of the early dynastic period, which began over 5,000 years ago, and over 3,000 years before Alexander himself took the kingdom. The film concludes with the uniting of the lower and upper kingdoms under Horus, an event that occurred in deep Egyptian dynastic history around the reigns of Ka, Namar, and Scorpion. Yes, that Scorpion. It is believed that Ka and Scorpion, who was actually Scorpion too, led the military campaigns that would eventually see the two kingdoms of Egypt united, with Namar being the first true pharaoh. All of which occurs after the mythological golden age of Pharaoh Ra, when the old fella directly ruled the world he shaped for thousands of years, before he became a surly old drunk. Egyptians from this period, without question, were African. And Old Kingdom art, from the time of the pyramid builders after this, proves this. Having then this race of gods and early humans be mostly white was the broken back that the entire effort of the production was built on. And it is no wonder why it collapsed in such a dramatic fashion, making more headlines for the controversy than its quality or box office, made worse by a reactive director who didn't get the problem. Only officially making $10 million in profit, which doesn't account for marketing and PR responses that likely ate that up, The film was a colossal disaster that has likely stalled Nicolaj's big screen leading man career, a position that should have been a shoo-in for the handsome and dashing actor whose performance as Janie Lannister has been wonderfully nuanced. This film is best avoided and should be given the Imhotep special, a curse locked away for all eternity.
Khaleesi is coming to Westeros!
Okay, so I actually like X-Men Apocalypse. It's by no means a great film, nor even a great X-Men film, but it's not the worst either, and in general captures the feeling of reading X comics from before the 1990 Jim Lee and Chris Claremont relaunch that is the stylistic basis of the brand that most people think of, with an exploding at the seams, overloaded, colorful continuity mess starring 1,000 characters that you are expected to know by name. Not that those issues and characteristics weren't present in the property before, merely that they were under tighter control and presented typically with more restraint. And restraint has absolutely been the guiding fashion of the Bryan Singer originated cinematic X-verse, with some wonderful and intentional exceptions. Despite being in theaters well after Chris Evans unironically was running around in the stars and bars, the visual designs remain in the late 90s. Ever afraid, the film about people gesturing wildly at each other while stuff explodes may look silly if they wear anything but muted colors and black leather. Oscar Isaacs is mostly wasted, but his Apocalypse is fine. Just fine. Yes, the Ivan ooze is strong in him. His performance is nowhere near as over the top and expressive though. So it just doesn't carry over for me as much of a distraction as it does for the rest of the internet. The Quicksilver solo set to Sweet Dreams is a better version of the two speed scenes from this franchise, even if it is the second verse same as the first. I remain somewhat surprised that they bothered to tie it back to a plotline from First Class involving Moira McTaggart, in a way that feels very comic book X-Men-y, in which secondary characters vanish for decades, but then come back as if only a week passed. And it's always nice to give some heavier lifting to Fassbender on occasion, just to change it up once in a while. The plot is bare bones, the villainous reasoning is cornball, and the marketing was a questionable balance between milking Jennifer Lawrence's contractual obligations for all that they were worth, and presenting an enormous billboard of a dude throttling her by the neck. What was nice, and now ultimately truly pointless, was the inclusion of the young core team for Fox Kids, namely Scott, Kurt, Jubilee, and Jean, here played by Sophie Turner. You've got to feel bad for Sophie. This should have been the role of a lifetime, an easy decade's worth of gigs, or more, portraying one of the most well-known, complicated, and fundamentally important characters in X-Men canon. Her character ranges from average teenager, who can read minds, to near omnipotent dark cosmic god of destruction and rebirth. Jean Grey is a character with great storytelling potential, and tons of room for any performer to stretch and play in. And Sophie is an excellent choice for the role, not only due to her looks, but also her ability to portray characters who keep or lose aspects of their personality due to events done to them. She can play the leader, the damsel, the hostage to greater powers, and the righteously or unjustly bloodthirsty. Unfortunately, possibly knowing that the end of the Fox X-verse was inevitable, her character was skipped along far too quick, going from reintroduction to Phoenix within about 15 minutes of on-screen time, and then to Dark Phoenix immediately in the upcoming sequel, which was reportedly a mess since everyone involved know they are shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, and seemingly have all checked out. While her career will no doubt continue long after the Game of Thrones ends, it remains a shame that what should have been a golden egg opportunity turned out to just be Goldschlager shits.
For the watch. For the watch.
For the watch.
Hi, Brian.
2012's Dredd is an instance of a film that is perfect in that it achieves every artistic goal it set for itself, resulting in a textbook example of a good movie. It is a perfect scaling down of the world of 2000 AD's Judge Dredd, capturing the spirit and essence of the long-running comic book, while maintaining a shoestring budget by reducing the whiz-bang futurism, resulting in a film that looks more expensive than it really was. From top to bottom is a production by a committed artist, exemplified by Karl Urban's refusal to stoop to leading man ego and remaining helmeted for the entire film, as the original Dredd has for decades. It is also gorgeously shot, thanks to the use of diegetic phantom cams that beautifully slow down scenes in which the narcotic MacGuffin, slow-mo, is used, and clear line of sight action scenes that use the environmental aspects of an enormous but claustrophobic space. The music is atmospheric but not distracting. The set's futuristic but grimy and lived in, and the casting is spot on, with the lead character quickly being overshadowed by Lena Headey's hands-on violent villain Mama, an iron-fisted queen who makes Cersei Lannister look like a Girl Scout. She portrays the gang leader as sympathetic but without pathos, someone who you understand the rationale behind quite simply, but whose resulting actions through the film don't carry the audience's support. Unlike other films that will appear on side quests, Dredd had already been shot and produced by the time Thrones came along, so Lena didn't get the role due to her newfound popularity. Rather, it was her newfound popularity that drove the release of Dredd, which had been languishing without distribution. While unfortunately a financial flop, due to its small marketing budget and lack of studio support, is a fondly remembered cult classic. At its heart, Dredd is a film about lack of choice and how it perpetuates. The horrible society that created these people, every character in the film, has been locked into paths they cannot deviate from. They have no will in who they are. Anderson was born a mutant, altered by the same wars that made the world the way it was, and must adhere to the role of judge or be left to die, or maybe be outright eliminated and recycled. Dredd was created by the judges, with the single purpose of upholding the law, as it is written. Why someone commits a crime or becomes a criminal doesn't matter, just their arrest and mandated by offense punishment. Mama was a sex slave, who made the only chance available to her in a society to escape abuse and captivity by usurping her pimp and violently asserting her own choice over anyone who may stand against her. She is a victim whose only real possible exit from victimhood was sadistic violence. Dredd kills her because that is the law, but no attempt is ever made to address the problem with any sense of understanding, nor does Mama expect any. There is no you and I speech or think like the bad guy moment. Just inevitable outcomes predetermined by the society without specific intent. A reoccurring theme that plays out every day in Mega City 1. If you've never seen Dredd, then please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to my Patreon at patreon.com/herego, close this page, and go find a copy somewhere out there in the world. You won't regret it.